This is going to be perhaps the single most valuable tool that you use to learn new pieces of music quickly and not have to relearn a piece because you learn mistakes. So aural memory, just simply put, is how does the music sound in your inner brain, your inner musical brain? Are you able to hear every detail and nuance? The more vividly you're able to do this, the easier it will and faster it will be for you to learn a new piece of music. So my goal for today is to learn this third line of number 9 here, Opus 23. And to do this, I'm gonna really come up with a plan for how I'm gonna be moving my wrist. I'm gonna be thinking about that a lot on the right hand here. And I'm gonna be really making sure to hit these fingerings that are already indicated. These are actually good fingerings. Okay, so right now I'm going to show you how to build your aural memory. First thing you're going to need to do is take a small passage of your piece, something that you're confident you can play correctly and consistently at a slow tempo, repeating over and over again. You should be engaging your listening mind and making sure that your ear can pick up every chord, every nuance of the melody, musical nuances like phrasing dynamics. You have an ideal in your brain, or you have a plan before you go and figure out what the ideal is. Come up with a plan of how you want this to sound, what you want to do with your dynamics in this one measure, how you want to bring out the voices, all of that. Okay, and you're going to see an example of how I do that. I'll demonstrate. So I will go through this and repeat it slowly many times to build my aural memory. And as I'm doing it, I'm solidifying the fingering, I'm honing my technique, but I'm just gonna keep going slowly. And sometimes maybe I'll focus on this. There's so much going on in this passage. That's what makes it such a good example for how to do this. That sometimes I'm focusing on this lower melody in the right hand, and sometimes I'm focusing on the upper melody, but it's all getting instilled into my inner musical brain. And so with the end result that being that I can look at this measure, and when I see that, the notes remind me exactly of the sound of it because I've played it over and over, slowly. So I have this ideal in my brain of what this would sound like when all the notes are played. So even if I speed it up a bit, I still know if I'm getting all the notes. Right? I know I got all the notes that time. So there is one other aspect of the music that's going to help you form a strong aural memory, and that is the music theory element, or even just the chords. If you can name the chords or the notes that are in a tone cluster. It depends on the passage, but I find it helpful, especially like this passage in Rachmaninoff. I have to know the chords. E flat major, going to B augmented, going to G minor, very unusual, going to an A chord, and then to an F minor, and then here we are back at G minor, E flat minor, G minor, first inversion, right? So knowing all those harmonies that are involved, having that memorized is an incredible help, even if it's just in a sense that you can hear each chord as it changes. That's enough. You don't need to know the theory or all the functions of every chord tone or any of that, really. You just need to know it by feel and by your aural sense. The technique that I just demonstrated to improve your aural memory assumes that you already have a workable technique memory or muscle memory of how you're going to play the passage. And I am not able to cover that topic in depth in this video, but you can find that if you search my instructional video. Now there's one more way that I would recommend for you to go about building your aural memory, and that is listening to some top recordings of the piece that you're learning. So you could choose recordings that somebody's recommended to you, or just choose some standard recordings of the repertoire and see if there's some things that you can take away from the sound of their performance and apply that to your performance, as long as you can find in the score that the markings support it. So now I'll give you an example of how listening to one of Lugansky's recordings convinced me to change the way I was playing part of Rachmaninoff's Third Piano Concerto. So this is one example of a passage where my aural memory kicked in for me and caused me to change the way I was playing this. Of course, it's linked with a memory of physical muscle memory. And I was really just being too relaxed with my arms, just letting my arms, you get a very legato sound. But then I was listening to Lugansky in particular playing this, and I remembered the shortness and the preciseness and the lightness I was hearing in his playing meant that I had to do something extra. So now what I'm doing is on each of these, I'm almost thinking of it more like that. It is still legato, but it's just such a lightness and a quickness of my arm muscles and fast twitch muscles. That's helping me get that lightness, because what I want these little figures to sound like is like gurgles of water. You know, like this reminds me of Jadot, this sound, the sonority that Rachmaninoff was after here. Is your aural memory going to evolve throughout the process of memorizing and learning your piece? Yes, of course. You're going to start out doing this small passage slowly, but of course we're going to start linking those passages together, playing at a quicker tempo, eventually performance tempo. And what you'll find will happen by the time that everything is learned is that you will have a definitive technique memory that is inextricably linked with the aural memory component, sort of joggling back and forth in your mind between the physical memory of the movements and how it feels to play, interspersed with memory of the sound that you're trying to create, the ideal sound. In conclusion, if you want to perform your piece securely, the best way to do that is to have a firm technical memory coupled with a very good aural memory. The ideal is to have those two things so well prepared that all you think about as you're performing is communicating emotions and the ideas within the music to the audience. Thanks for watching.